I read that effect, they had like exploding blood in that shot originally, and like Stephen King loved the effect. Like it looked like the steamroller ran over the kid's head and it just exploded with blood everywhere. And the MPAA was like, "You need to cut this out of the movie. Like we cannot release it." Which I mean is fair, but I'm kind of morbidly curious about what that looked like.
Hello and welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Vincent Hannum
And Matt Levine.
And we're talking about all our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here.
Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, a savvy investment property, or expert guidance on home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information.
Hi, my name is Stephen King. I've written several motion pictures, but I want to tell you about a movie called Maximum Overdrive, which is the first one I've directed.
Wow. What in the dickens is going on around here?
A lot of people have directed Stephen King novels and stories, and I finally decided if you want something done right, you ought to do it yourself.
Who was driving it? I don't know.
Curtis! It's coming after us!
It was my first picture as a director, and you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
What is going on?
I don't know!
I just wanted someone to do Stephen King right.
You want a war? You got one.
I just want to get the hell out of here.
So come and spend some time with me and my friends at the Dixie Boy. Spend some time in the dark.
Please don't let us be in the dark.
Help me.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you. And that's a promise.
You're going to get us in an awful lot of trouble, man.
We already in trouble.
Maximum terror.
Jesus coming and he is.
Maximum King.
Maybe tomorrow will be our world again.
Dino De Laurentiis presents Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive.
Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day, early June here in Minnesota. Went for a little run earlier today. Yeah, it's early summer is a great time in Minnesota.
Were you running from alligators?
No, I wasn't, but alligators have been on my mind thanks to our screening at the Heights Theater a couple weeks ago, or last week, I guess that was.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Well, this recording, it was last Friday, but yeah, a few days later, how do you feel about it?
It was a lot of fun. We had a decent crowd, about 40 people in the theater. It's a very fun movie. Great John Sayles script. Robert Forster is very charismatic. I love the creature effects in that movie, so it was a very enjoyable experience. What did you think?
I feel the same way. Considering it wasn't either our top two choices, the people who did come out, they were there for it. We did a meet and greet before the show, and we always asked people, have you seen Alligator before? And those who said yes were there because how often do you get a chance to see it on the big screen?
Yeah.
And then those who didn't, they were just happy to finally see a movie they had maybe heard about all these years. So everyone was very enthusiastic. The giveaway prizes were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
When our first winner, I forget her name, but she jumped up with so much exuberance when she heard her name called. I thought she was going to fall climbing up that stage.
I know.
But, it was awesome. I was so happy for that kind of excitement.
Yeah, for sure. I think the person who won the mop signed by Lloyd Kaufman was not quite as excited about it, but still, that's pretty cool. Even if you don't care about Lloyd Kaufman, which you should, the head of Troma Studios, and I mean, that's pretty cool. But even if you, like, you get a mop regardless, a free cleaning supply, so it's a good prize, you know?
Toxie would be proud.
Yes, for sure. And the person in the row behind us watching Alligator, I don't know if they had seen it before or not, but they were getting into it and like kind of talking back at the screen and like responding and like gasping a little bit. I mean, that's a perfect movie for that kind of interaction, you know?
They were, weren't they? Yeah. Not a distraction at all. I wish more people were being as vocal as that person was.
Yeah, especially for a movie like Alligator.
Right, right. But either way, afterwards talking to people, yeah, it was just good energies all around.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we'll have more screenings at some point in the future. I know a lot of changes are coming up on the horizon for both you and me. I'm just in our personal lives, but hopefully there will be more screenings, Camp Kaiju screenings at some point.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, a traveling road show perhaps.
Well, speaking of the road, like I said earlier, I'll never look at a semi the same way again. Road trips will always have an extra hint of danger when I'm driving down the 2-lane highway there.
Yeah. I mean, because tonight, of course, we're talking about, I know this is the lead up here, but Maximum Overdrive.
Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Stephen King's sole directorial effort and just filled with carnage, filled with vehicular carnage and machine related carnage of many different kinds.
Carnage is the name of the episode. Maximum Carnage, Maximum Overdrive. Great title. It's one of those titles that I don't really like. If you ask me to define what that means, I can't really define what that means.
Yeah.
But I think I know how to use it. Like, I'm putting this car in a maximum overdrive.
Yeah. Which doesn't seem like an actual thing, but it sounds good.
It doesn't. I forget which character drops the title of the film in their dialogue. And it sounded as if they didn't even know what it means.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say too. It's like, yeah, it's a line of dialogue where it's like, we got to put this in a maximum overdrive or something like that. And it's like, I still don't get it, but it sounds appropriate, fitting for this movie.
Yeah, a little more dramatic than Trucks,
Yeah.
I will admit.
The name of the original short story.
Right. Yeah.
Which you read the short story, right?
I did.
Cool. I read it too.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm sure we'll talk about it more. Arguably, it works better in literary form than cinematic form, but
it takes a different approach. It ends on a completely different note, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you, listeners, for hanging out. Lots of good coming up, lots of bad, and a whole lot of campy. But whatever you're feeling tonight, good, bad, or campy, let us know with a nice positive rating and review. You can review this show on your favorite podcatchers. Follow us on patreon.com/campkaiju. We've got a whole ton of additional videos, reviews, merchandise, special episodes coming up, a whole lot more. And if you want to get in touch with us beyond Patreon, shoot us an email at campkaiju@gmail.com. Subscribe to campkaijupodcast.com to get us in your email inbox. Follow us on Instagram. And the answering machine zone is awaiting for you at 612-470-2612. Rod Serling has told me himself that there is something waiting for us in the answering machine zone tonight. Well, we got to shout out our thank yous to our Patreon members who keep this truck fueled.
Jason, Chris, Sean, Peggy, our anonymous patron, Don, Steffi, Jim, and Benjamin. Or Benjamin, please let us know. No harm, no foul there. We want to get it right. But thank you for joining us here at camp.
Yes, thank you so much.
This month, June, in monster movie history, it's a good one. What is jumping out at you there, Matt?
Oh, man. A lot of stuff that I think we've talked about before on the podcast. I'm trying to find something new. Do you want to go first, maybe? Is that all right?
I'll go first. I'm looking at Tentacles from 1977. a Dino De Laurentiis production. And it is, I've never seen it actually, but it's about a giant octopus or a squid. Everything screams Jaws exploitation film to me.
I'm going to shout out Curse the Werewolf. I honestly can't remember if I've talked about this before, but that's a Hammer horror feature from 1961. Oliver Reed is in it. That's one of my favorite Hammer films that I've seen. Really like handsome production values, like many of their films. Artificial sets and costumes, but like a little bit more of a human element than usual. And I think Oliver Reed is a big reason for that. There's even kind of like a perverse love story in that movie, which I think kind of it lends itself to a werewolf story, you know, like those themes go hand in hand, which we see from The Wolfman and many other movies. The Howling Wolf, for example, being two other ones. So yeah, Curse of the Werewolf, if you haven't seen it, if you're trying to check out some more Hammer horror movies, I recommend that one.
That one is high on my list because I hear it is among the best. So I have high hopes. What do we have coming up in the general world of monster movies? Matt, I sent this to you. The Human Vapor is a joint Netflix and Toho and South Korean production. Now, I will admit I sent this to you thinking it was The H-Man, which we had just talked about in the Ishiro Honda science fiction film. But The Human Vapor is itself an Ishiro Honda science fiction film from the 50s.
Oh.
And it's being adapted into a television series. It's like a spiritual, part of a spiritual trilogy, along with The H-Man and another film. But in The Human Vapor, a man grows the ability to turn into a mist. And I think he robs banks. I think he might be a superhero. I'm not entirely sure. But man, I gotta be sure. That's what I gotta do my research on.
Yeah, this sounds great. The Ishiro Honda movie sounds fantastic. It's what you're saying right now, but I've never heard of it before. And I'm trying to read about the new series coming up, directed by Shinzo Katayama. I have to admit I don't know a lot about him, but yeah, looks good. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I have to shout out an establishment called Katzen Coffee. They are located in St. Paul, Minnesota. And Matt, I got connected. I saw them post on Instagram. They are having a mini kaiju series of films in their coffee shop.
Whoa.
And they're a cat cafe. So I see you're a cat man. You've got
Yep. It's right behind me right now.
Right behind you. So if you're in town, each Saturday in June, Saturday evenings in June, Katzen Cafe will be playing in order King Kong vs. Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, King Kong Escapes, and then finally Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla from 1974.
That's a strong lineup.
Strong lineup. Go support a local establishment.
Yeah, that's amazing. I got to check this place out. I feel like I might be working at the Heights a lot of Saturdays in June, but hopefully I can make it for at least one of those.
Yeah, I'll send you the info. I'll put the link in the show notes. That's what's coming up locally.
Cool.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I see you have Backrooms here. Obsession also is like, extremely popular, kind of making waves in the film scene right now. Maybe not monster movies per se, but horror movies that are like just another sign that you can make a horror movie for very little money and like it can make a huge impact, It's one of the reasons it's probably my favorite genre, and I'm really excited to see those. Yeah, you haven't seen either of those yet, have you?
No.
Yeah, me either. But I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah. Coming up next on Camp Kaiju. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we're continuing our Kingly June. Tonight we're talking about Maximum Overdrive. On our next episode, we're talking about Children of the Corn. Another sort of schlocky from what I understand, although I haven't seen the movie yet. Another King adaptation. Children of the Corn is from the early 90s, I believe.
Early 80s.
Early 80s, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so does it compare to the over-the-top insanity of Maximum Overdrive? Children of the Corn was not directed by Stephen King, so I'm sure there will be some differences there. Do you know who directed it offhand?
I don't.
I'm going to look that up.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it. I've watched it more than once, but way back in high school. So it's been a long time. I don't remember anything about it, really, like the specifics. I am interested in making this an excuse to watch some of the sequels, which I know by reputation are even worse. But, maybe there's some fun to be had in those.
Yeah, I think and I hope so. I would like to watch some of the sequels too. I tried to do that with Species, and I made it into through the second movie, and I was like, all right, I'm probably not going to continue with this, but maybe Children of the Corn will be different. And I have verified that the director of Children of the Corn, which came out in 1984, thank you for correcting me, the director is Fritz Kirsch, who has almost nothing else notable in his filmography. So that might be a red flag, but who knows? Maybe there are some hidden gems.
And then beyond Children of the Corn, folks, me and Matt will have some announcements beyond Children of the Corn. We will have some G-Fest related content in July, so look out for that. In addition to, again, to be announced titles, to be announced plans. So yeah, just hang tight and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Beyond Children of the Corn should definitely be one of the names of the sequels. I don't think it is, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
As soon as I said it, I thought the same thing.
Sounds good. Let's write it.
Let's do it.
We'll watch the sequels first, and then we'll see.
Yeah, see what we're working with. The lore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, like I said, G-Fest is in July, the weekend of July 10th. Matt and I will be there, in addition with Beth Breadlaw and Chris McVillan. We'll be on a couple of panels. But if you are in Chicago, if you're interested in traveling to Chicago, it's absolutely worth your time. And come and say hi. If you're listening to this episode, come say hi. In Minneapolis, at Indeed Brewery, Matt, it's our triumphant return to Naomi's film trivia.
I can't wait. Film Friends Trivia at Indeed Brewery. It's the first Monday of every month. So in July, that's going to be Monday, July 6th. I had a great time doing it last time we were there. I have been thinking about some questions this time around. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
Me too. And this year, I want to do kaiju haikus. Which just sounds like a better fit anyways.
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I love that idea. Kaiju is like, of course we love it and many people out there love it. For some film fans, it might be like a specialized niche category, but that's the fun of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everyone knows the big ones.
Yeah.
Godzilla,
sure.
King Kong, Mothra.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But do you know
the Muffin Man? Terrible joke. We're all about the bad jokes tonight. Sorry.
We'll move on. I got nothing better than that.
She is seductive. She is passionate. She is Christine, a 1958 Plymouth Fury with a taste for blood. Nothing you can do can stop her, because how do you kill something that can't possibly be alive? Christine, body by Plymouth, soul by Satan, rated R. Watch out for her soon at a theater near you.
Dennis Weaver.
Okay, Jack, I've had it. Why? Why is he doing this?
Duel.
From the short story by Stephen King, Trimark Pictures invites you to buckle up. You are now entering a town called Lunar.
Morning.
First time in this part of the cosmos.
Looking for flying saucers?
Why would anyone want to live in a place like this?
Dad, it's too quiet here.
Where something strange is going on.
Electricity is out for most areas. It'll be at least 24 hours before we can get to you.
Can't get nothing on the CB. Phones are out.
What's that?
Is there anyone driving?
Trucks don't drive by themselves. A mysterious force has taken hold.
These trucks appear to have an intelligence. They're talking to each other.
They're up to something.
And the traffic is way out of control.
Look out! Man, the boys outside. Look out!
Dad, what's going on?
Get away from my son! Now!
We got the generator.
I think we got we next?
I'll get you out of here, I promise.
Go, go, go!
You are about to reach the end of the line. Trucks. A thriller without brakes. Starring Timothy Busfield.
What is your experience and personal history with both Maximum Overdrive and Stephen King in general?
I'll start with Maximum Overdrive. Pretty much none until yesterday when I saw this movie. And I also read the short story Trucks yesterday. But I knew about its reputation that it was so over the top. It's the only movie that King ever directed himself. We'll talk about the various substances that went into the making of the movie and his state of mind while he was making it, but I knew about that beforehand, you know? So there are all these legends about just how crazy this movie is, and I'd seen some of the images from it, like the Green Goblin semi-truck and stuff like that. But yeah, aside from that, I had never seen it. As for Stephen King, I've had like an up and down history with him in the past. I really love some of his books. Bag of Bones is my favorite book that I've read by him. Pet Sematary is really good. The Shining is good. And then, you know, I think some of the other stuff, when you're reading it, you can tell when he's in like paycheck mode, when he's like, all right, got to churn out another bestseller, make another couple $1 million. And, you know, it's a lot of kind of self-repetition, bad dialogue, like stock characters. Like you can tell when he's working in that mode, I think, you know. And in like the cinematic adaptations, I think my favorite ones are the ones that he hates the most. Like he hates The Shining, and like, you know, that's almost definitely the best Stephen King adaptation. But Carrie is good, and he does like Carrie a lot, so maybe I'm being a little bit hard on Stephen King. But I think like what makes a Stephen King book, if not good, then at least entertaining and very readable, might not be what makes a movie good, you know?
Yeah. I feel you. I generally enjoy Stephen King, but I also enjoy when I see his tells. I haven't read a lot of his best known horror novels, but like in middle school, I read Cujo. I read Misery. Misery is one of my favorite movies, like top 20 favorite movies. I love Misery.
Yeah.
And then I find what's interesting, The Shining is obviously an all-time masterpiece of filmmaking, but the other highly regarded Stephen King movies aren't his horror films, like The Shawshank Redemption. And I was personally blown away by the Green Mile film, though I've never read it. Stand By Me, another example of non-horror, but he is able to capture a sense of youth very well. Sometimes it's like a positive depiction of youth, and then sometimes it's very corrupt and the children get killed in very brutal ways.
We see that in Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. But generally I like Stephen King, even though I 100% admit he's prolific for a reason, which is he needs a paycheck, but also I am impressed by the talent it takes to write as many books as he has written.
Yeah, that's true. A friend of mine told me a story once about going to like talk in like a writer's workshop that Stephen King led. And he came away with a kind of negative experience of Stephen King. And like, you know, King was kind of just saying like, if you want to be a millionaire bestseller writer, just do it. Just quit your job. Just like sit down, write a book, like find a publisher and do it. And like, like that's, you know, that's what it's all about. Just make that money. And like my friend was like, this is a terrible thing to tell young writers for like so many different reasons, you know? So that might kind of like taint my opinion of Stephen King a little bit unfairly because I wasn't even there at that workshop, you know? So I should keep that in mind. And like I do, like The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, I was thinking of that when you mentioned his ability to write young characters, because I love that book a lot as well. And that's him like stepping out of his comfort zone a little bit. So yeah, he's hit or miss, and for me anyway. And yeah, there's a lot of misses in Maximum Overdrive, but maybe a couple hits too.
Yeah. It's not too much of a tangent because it's going to relate back to what we're talking about later, and we can just skip it when we get to that part. But Trucks, his short story was originally published in a magazine in 1973. And when you're keyed into the history of like Pulp Fiction, and like magazines were such a huge outlet for writers. The Fly was originally published in Playboy. It was just a thing, and we don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a door that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and I think there is some other some other generational issues with King as well. Like, I think some elements of, I don't know, bro culture, I guess. Like, I hesitate to say toxic masculinity because I think King does kind of like criticize it a little bit, but also he revels in it. And like Maximum Overdrive, there's so much of that, and it's like, I mean, maybe it's kind of fun and just like this movie would not get made anymore sort of way, but it's also like, a 13-year-old immature juvenile like boy could have written this screenplay. You know what I mean?
Well, first thought, yes, I think this movie is what a 13-year-old would make. Like if you said, here, make a movie, kid, this is the movie they would make, for better or for worse. And then my second point was, yeah, when Stephen King, like I read Cujo, and I found Cujo mean-spirited towards the kid in that book and the mom. So I'm not gaga for King. I do recognize when he writes something that I'm like, oh, you are going through something, and and I'm not blaming you. You're using your writing as an outlet for whatever demons you have or your bad mood or whatever. But it doesn't always make for an enjoyable story for me.
Yeah. Again, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's interesting to see some of that reflected in his work, but also sometimes a little bit off-putting, I would say.
Yeah, but I have Salem's Lot on my reading pile, so I'm going to read that next soon.
I do like that one a lot. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Maybe it's the earlier ones that I tend to like a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe. So that's my history with Stephen King. My history with Maximum Overdrive. I only saw this for the first time a couple of years ago, when we did our killer car road trip like 3-4 years ago. I should have brought this to the podcast, but that's how it goes. But I watched it then. I'd always known about this movie through my deep, deep love for AC/DC. And we could talk more about that in a little bit. I watched it for the second time this past week, and I have no regrets. I have a lot to criticize, but I don't regret watching it again.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. It's not a boring movie. I'll give you that much.
It's like sneaky boring, though.
Yeah, you're right. It drags in certain spots. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a stretch where, I'm just like rocking out to AC/DC, and then I realized, but what's happening on screen? Like, what's the visual? There's nothing really happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie makes me think there's something happening because of just the music. That's a sneak peek into my thoughts about the music a little bit with this film.
Yeah. I might know what scene you're talking about, but maybe I'll save it for later for my criticisms of the movie. or the good stuff. Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Same.
All right. Well, some select crew with this film. We just talked a lot about Stephen King. For those of you who don't know who Stephen King is, he is one of the most prolific and I would say important writers in the horror genre. I mean, he is, I worry about hyperbole, but then I'm like, look, I have heard him mentioned in the same breath as Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, at least in terms of icons in the horror literature canon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's synonymous with pop culture horror over the last 40 years. No question.
We're going to mention a lot of his titles: Carrie, The Shining, The Dead Zone, Cujo, Misery, Stand By Me, The Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, and dozens of other, quote, lesser quality film adaptations. So those are just some notable film adaptations of his works. Maximum Overdrive is one of many in that bunch. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of films based on his books and TV shows even. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about Armando Iannucci?
A little bit, yeah. I think he's actually an extremely talented cinematographer. As you can probably judge from that name, he's Italian. He shot a movie called The Damned for Luchino Visconti, which could not be more different from Maximum Overdrive. It's like a deep art movie it's basically about the Holocaust in Italy, and like the sort of like this upper class family who's like sheltered from all the horrible things going on, but still this like moral rot in Italy at the time in the 1940s. And it's just a gorgeous historical movie. So some other movies that he shot that are a little bit more well known, La Cage aux Folles, which was remade as The Birdcage. That's the more recognizable movie probably in this country. But La Cage aux Folles is very good looking. And then like in the 80s, he also shot Silver Bullet, another Stephen King adaptation, which looks really good. I might like that one a little bit more than Maximum Overdrive. It's very beautiful. But even his cinematography for Maximum Overdrive looks great. And you're like, this guy put a lot of care and effort into the cinematography for this movie when maybe he shouldn't have, you know?
I love that. I love that so much. Silver Bullet intrigues me. I've never seen it, but I really want to, especially now. And yeah, I just have grown such an appreciation for photography in film and how a cinematographer uses the theory of photography to tell the story and paint the picture that we're watching on screen.
Yeah, and there are lots of examples of that in Maximum Overdrive, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
I would love to. Yeah.
Cool. You can talk about who did the music for this movie, though.
I don't even need to look at my notes. AC/DC, Stephen King's favorite band. That's why they're attached to this movie. When I was a teenager in high school, 8th grade, I discovered Back in Black, and a love affair was born. And I got all their albums on CD, and like every single one of them, including an album called Who Made Who, which is really just a compilation album of previous hits. But there's one original song written for the album because that album is technically the soundtrack to Maximum Overdrive. And man, my whole life I was like, yeah, it's the soundtrack to Maximum Overdrive. I've never seen that movie. But that's AC/DC. They're one of the biggest rock bands in the history of music. Back in Black, I think, is the second best-selling album of the 80s, behind Thriller. Like, I just know that. And they're the best.
I love your enthusiasm. I have to admit, I've never totally gotten into AC/DC, but I'll give it a try now that I know your love for them.
Matt, who produced Maximum Overdrive?
Dino De Laurentiis, who we've talked about. Yeah, Dino himself. We've talked about Dino many times before because he's produced, as you write here, over 500 movies, which is crazy. 38 of those were nominated for Academy Awards. Some of his well-known credits include, let's see what we got here, Serpico, Death Wish, 3 Days of the Condor, The Shootist, Ingmar Bergman's The Serpent's Egg, Ragtime by Milos Forman, Conan the Barbarian. Like, those were within a year of each other. So, like, his output is like great European art directors over here and just like utter trash over here, which I kind of admire in a way. Like, maybe that's contradictory because I was criticizing Stephen King for his, like, you know, greed, maybe you want to call it, just desire for a paycheck before. And Dino apparently just like produces anything that can like give him clout and money. But hey, there's a lot of good stuff on there.
He is so eclectic, and we have talked about him so much because he's directed movies featured on this podcast. The 1976 King Kong, Orca, one of my favorite movies to come out of this podcast. King Kong Lives, 1986. And then a whole plethora of other King adaptations and horror films. Manhunter, the first Hannibal Lecter film.
Yeah.
Halloween 2, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. And he was producing right up until he died, really. Hannibal Rising in 2007. And then I think he died not long after that. So incredibly, maybe as prolific as Stephen King. There you go.
Yeah, and I take back my ambivalent recap of Dino De Laurentiis because anybody who produces all those movies, you know, yeah, Evil Dead 2 and like Blue Velvet, I think he produced that, the David Lynch movie. His company, you know, backed that movie. You gotta love him. Anybody who does all that is amazing. You gotta love him.
I think personally, he was kind of maybe a rough around the edges character, maybe a little of that old school manipulative type of producer,
Yeah.
pounding his fist, as we will see with Maximum Overdrive. There's some examples of that kind of grossness a little bit.
Yeah.
But artistically, the resume speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How about this cast?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Emilio Estevez leads our cast. He plays Bill Robinson, a young man working in the truck stop on probation. Kind of an anti-hero type. He's kind of that cookie cutter caricature of young hothead, but he's got a heart of gold. Now, by 1986, Emilio Estevez was definitely a star. He had played lead roles in The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire, both in 1985. And a certain generation knows him very well from the Mighty Ducks series, where he played Coach Gordon Bombay. Of course, Estevez is the eldest child of actor Martin Sheen and the older brother of Charlie Sheen, both of whose last names are Estevez, but Emilio kept his given name for, entertainment purposes. And Estevez was cast on the insistence of Dino De Laurentiis. King's first choice was Bruce Springsteen, which I find very interesting. And Dino De Laurentiis didn't even know who that was. So he said, no. Emilio Estevez, go with him.
I think Emilio's pretty good, but I would be fascinated to see this movie with Bruce Springsteen in the lead.
What would it be like a Bruce Springsteen, but none of his music?
Yeah. But I mean, Springsteen is so charismatic. I actually don't even love his music all that much, but I do feel like he would be a good actor, just like his presence and like I just wonder what kind of like persona he would like bring to the movie, maybe a little bit more. Like, I don't really think like blue collar worker when I see Emilio Estevez, even though he's supposed to be that in this movie. And I would maybe buy that more with Springsteen.
No, I was going to say Emilio Estevez is good. He's doing his job. But, think about some other 80s young actors who maybe fits the gruff nature of the role a little bit more. I'm blanking, but yeah, maybe he's a little too clean cut for the role from a casting perspective.
Yeah. Pat Hingle plays Bubba Hendershot, the manipulative owner of the diner/truck stop, which I think is called Dixie Boys, which just seems to fit this movie so well. Bubba abuses his authority over guys like Bill, the Emilio Estevez character. Bubba often threatens to send them back to jail if they don't put in extra hours because there are other people on probation that also work at the truck stop. Pat Hingle was a character actor from the Actors Studio who achieved a lot of success in the 50s and 60s in film and on Broadway. His credits include On the Waterfront, Cat in a Hot Tin Roof, Splendor in the Grass, Norma Ray. He might be best known as Commissioner Gordon in the Batman film series. I confess that's how I do know him best. But yeah, he was a method actor in a lot of very acclaimed movies in the golden age of Hollywood.
I had no idea. He disappears into this role that I didn't even recognize him as Commissioner Gordon. And not that like I watch those Batman movies for Commissioner Gordon, but in those movies, you remember Commissioner Gordon. He does have a very distinct sound and look. That credit to the character actor of Hingle, I didn't recognize. I didn't put two and two together.
Same. I recognized the name, I think, from Batman. Like, I just knew Pat Hingle was in the Batman movies, but I couldn't recognize him from this movie. But yeah, he disappears into this role, which is an extremely sleazy role.
Yep. Extremely also cookie cutter archetype.
Yeah. Kind of a capitalist fat cat. And I feel like sometimes the money grubbing guys in these Stephen King works are the villains, which is just kind of interesting because maybe not the, political subtext that you would expect,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, and his King often also takes down corrupt religious figures as well, which we see in Maximum Overdrive.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Children of the Corn. Lots of thoughts on religion in that movie and story, too.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Opposite Emilio Estevez is his love interest, Laura Harrington, as Brett. Brett is hitchhiking when she ends up at the Dixie Boy truck stop. She's just the love interest. I mean, there might be more to that character, but there's not really. And other credits, however, to Laura Harrington include The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, and later on, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. But she also has a ton of credits in film and TV through the 90s and early 2000s.
I recognize her from Buckaroo Banzai. That's a fun movie.
I've never seen it. Sounds fun.
It's as exciting as the title suggests.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, she brings some nice charisma to this role, I think. I'm glad that like she totally initiates the love, like the romance between her and Bill. Like Amelia, like she kind of just goes up to Bill and she's like, "Hey, hero, you're mine now." Like essentially, that's how it starts. And it's like, all right, I like her agency, I like her authority there. Like, you're right that there's not a lot of depth to her character, but she knows what she wants.
No, you're right. Good call out. Another female actor in this movie, Yardley Smith. But Smith plays Connie, the newlywed bride who has strong opinions. Definitely a comedic relief character. Now, Smith, if you don't recognize her face, you will recognize her voice. She is the voice of Lisa Simpson and has been doing that since 1987, which was obviously after Maximum Overdrive.
And she later said that she's embarrassed by this movie, but her character is pretty obnoxious, so I kind of understand why. I assume that's the reason, among other reasons, you know.
Yeah. The ostensible comedic relief. I think by the end, her shrill, complaining one-note character gets a little old.
Yeah.
But her as an actor is she has presence, right? Like, I enjoy her presence. And obviously her work in The Simpsons is unparalleled.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I know I'm maybe talking a little bit too much about the characters in the story right now, but like, you know, it's kind of a sweet story. Like, she and Curtis just got married, and they're driving the just married car when they end up at the truck stop, and they genuinely love each other. And that's kind of sweet. Like, it's nice to have that to sort of like offset some of the more, again, sleazy, I'll just use that word, like sleazier elements of this movie.
Yeah. And then Frankie Faison.
Yeah, Frankie Faison is handy. He's a truck driver in this movie. An accomplished actor, known for his role in The Wire. That is indeed where I know him best. Frankie Faison is in the Hannibal Lecter franchise. Cat People, which we talked about the original. He's in the remake, obviously, of Cat People. The Money Pit, Silence of the Lambs, obviously a Hannibal Lecter franchise. Yeah, so many movies throughout the years. I really like Frankie Faison a lot. I also wanted to mention this is an early role for Giancarlo Esposito, who over the next couple of years would be in School Days, Do the Right Thing, both Spike Lee movies. He was later on Breaking Bad. So I don't think he has literally any dialogue in this movie, but I recognized him. He's killed almost immediately, but he's in it.
Is he in the arcade at the truck stop?
Yeah, yep, that's him. But he would very soon go on to, be in really great movies and work with Spike Lee.
That's awesome.
Big fan.
And I do think it's awesome that this movie has so many actors who would then become major stars.
Yeah. I know Yardley Smith doesn't like this movie all that much. I wonder how the rest of them feel about it, though.
Yeah. Stephen King doesn't like this movie either.
Yeah. Indeed. His son Joe does. Joe Hill likes this movie.
Yep. Joe Hill has expressed interest in potentially making a remake of the movie. But that's just like not even a rumor. That's just something he said once. But It would be interesting. I would be here for it.
Yeah. I mean, I would watch that. It would be strange to be like, would he try to emulate the sort of like moronic vibe of this movie? Like, would he go for that intentionally,
or would he try to make a more sincere, thought-provoking commentary on our relationship with machinery?
Exactly.
I don't think you can capture the chemistry of this particular film. I don't think you can recapture that. So just try to make a sincere movie if you do it again.
Yeah. I kind of hope it happens now.
Yeah. Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Oh, there's got to be a good tagline there. It's not coming to me right now.
I know.
We'll think of that too.
No, it's Maximum Overdrive, but Maximum is spelled with two X's.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Two V's in over, like OVVER maybe? Or is that too much? That's maybe too much.
Well, not if the spirit is of this movie. Just go for broke.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, well, let's get into the production backstory a little bit. As we said, Trucks was originally published in Cavalier magazine in 1973. It was later compiled into a larger collection of King's early short stories called Night Shift, published in 1978. Dino De Laurentiis, in his world, he had acquired Embassy Pictures in 1984, I want to say. Now, Embassy Pictures was a studio distribution producing company founded in 1942. By the 80s, it was going through some financial struggles. It never recovered and ultimately folded in 1986, probably because of this movie.
It played a role.
I don't think that year is a coincidence.
Yeah. I doubt it.
By 1985, De Laurentiis had produced a number of King adaptations. As we've said, the Dead Zone, Firestarter, Cat's Eye, and Silver Bullet. But now he had forged a 3-picture deal with Stephen King himself, and King, as part of this deal, would write and direct each film. What do you know? Maximum Overdrive was the first of that deal and the last. What could have been?
Yeah. I mean, I wish King would have directed some more just to see what would have happened.
Right. Would he hone his craft a little bit, or would he just sink deeper into the muck there?
Yeah.
But filming began on Maximum Overdrive in May of 1985 in North Carolina. Dino De Laurentiis had established a working film studio there, and one of the reasons was North Carolina was a right-to-work state, which means in labor terms, your workers don't have to join a union to work, which means as a producer, De Laurentiis could get maximum work and, have these guys working all hours. He could fire them without cause, that kind of thing. So one example of not so great Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah. Did Dino De Laurentiis also produce Swamp Thing, the Wes Craven movie? Because I feel like we've talked about that before.
Embassy Pictures did.
Okay.
But that was before De Laurentiis bought the studio.
Got it. The truck stop was built special for the movie. No longer exists, sadly. Stephen King drove his motorcycle down from Maine to personally experience the size and power of semi-trucks. This is according to gaffer Jock Brandis at a later retrospective screening of the movie. Love the name Jock Brandis, by the way. That should be a character name in this movie.
And Jock Brandis, I'll just interject, also pulled a whole host of other duties with the production. He had worked with De Laurentiis on Cat's Eye or Silver Bullet. Anyways, he had a relationship with De Laurentiis. So De Laurentiis, because lax union rules, had Jock doing all sorts of things, procuring the trucks, handling lighting, things that go beyond just normal gaffer stuff.
Well, to add to the chaos, according to Stephen King's biographer, Tony Magistrate, he claims that King was, quote, coked out of his mind and didn't know what he was doing, end quote, during production. On-set translator Roberto Crocchia said he doesn't remember any cocaine use, but that King drank heavily all day. I read something that King sometimes would bring a beer to their, 8 a.m., daily call or morning call or whatever. So yeah, heavy substance abuse during the making of this movie.
Yeah, from the guy leading the picture.
Yeah. And there are so many stories about that throughout film history, I think of Sam Peckinpah, who was just drunk all the time, basically, when he made his movies, and said that he was a better director when he was drunk than when he was sober. And those are only 2 examples. So I think it's happened a lot, but it's not, it seems like a terrible idea. You're overseeing a multi-million-dollar production.
I couldn't do it. When we get into our bad and campy, for sure, you could point out in this movie what was under the influence. Why was that choice made? Oh, probably because of drugs.
And it makes for a really interesting viewing experience and just like a one-of-a-kind experience, but not necessarily a good movie. Although, what criteria are we using to say it's a good movie or not?
Well, it's not necessarily a cohesive movie, like an intentionally cohesive movie. But I don't know. It's all subjective.
Especially so with a movie like this. Speaking of translations, I can keep on going a little bit. The cinematographer Armando Nanuzzi did not understand King at all, did not understand what Stephen King was saying. Again, Nanuzzi was Italian, like many on the crew, and he would often just nod in agreement with whatever King was saying, without understanding the assignment. Maybe that worked out for the best, because again, I think the cinematography is surprisingly beautiful in this movie.
Clearly, you're going to trust Nanuzzi to just know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right? That's the mark of any good artist. Just let me work.
Yep.
But to add to the chaos, we have workers without the disciplined guardrails of union guidelines, multi-language crew who don't understand each other, and we have a coked out drinking director.
What could go wrong?
Well, tell us, Matt, what does go wrong?
Well, that famed cinematographer Nanuzzi, who had been working for like 40 some years and made some masterful Italian movies, lost his right eye during production. This was an accident on set. They were shooting the killer lawnmower scene, and King insisted on leaving in the lawnmower's blades, even though they could not be seen on film. Once turned on, the blade tore up some wood the crew had wedged under the mower, and a large splinter struck Nanuzzi's eye. He was flown to a hospital in Raleigh. Production was halted for, I think, a couple weeks. Sort of shockingly, after Nanuzzi had surgery done on his eye, he did return and completed the job on Maximum Overdrive. But then after production, sued King and De Laurentiis and others for $18 million.
He settled out of court, but what a disaster.
Yeah, you really got to feel for him. I mean, for him to work on so many movies over so many years, and then to be so severely injured so much that it, severely like limited his professional chances for the rest of his life on this arguably shitty movie. You can bleep that out if you want. It's just so, you feel for him. It's unfortunate.
It's an ignominious ending in a way to such a great career.
Yeah. It's too bad. Yeah. And that's, there's some like fun stories about just how crazy this movie is, and like, oh, it's like just kind of like interesting that Stephen King was in such bad shape during the making of the movie. But like this story with Nanuzzi is like, that shouldn't happen to somebody. There should be safety guidelines in place. It's terrible.
Yeah. That is a direct consequence of the director, your leader, being completely out of control. I don't know if the substance abuse caused Nanuzzi's injury, but I'm just reading between the lines here.
And you kind of wonder if that's part of the reason Stephen King never made another movie. If he was like, I maybe didn't handle the responsibility all that well, I just wonder.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I would be extremely embarrassed, to say the least.
Yeah.
If I ruined this man's career, I took out his eye because I was on drugs.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah. And, maybe if they had like union guidelines in place, then there would be other people, assistant directors or like stunt people or something, like making sure that didn't happen.
That's why you support unions, people.
Yeah. That's the moral of this episode.
Man. Okay. Well, let's talk more about our favorite producer, Dino De Laurentiis. He was heavily involved in the production, very hands-on. He made costuming choices, I'm going to say notoriously, for Laura Harrington. So I read that he didn't like that she was wearing jeans in the first scene, and he insisted on her just wearing something more revealing. Which, yeah, you understand that from a certain perspective. You're making a schlocky film. But what's the choice? Is it a true creative choice, or are you a producer saying, "Hey, sex sells. Wear this"? In which case, it's a little sleazy.
Yeah, sleazy is the name of this episode. Hopefully not us, just this movie is yeah. But like I'm sure that has happened countless times in the history of filmmaking. Like I know it has. That happens on so many different film productions. But yeah, it's always gross, and like it kind of makes De Laurentiis seem like the Bible salesman who's like groping her in the car on the way to the truck stop at the beginning of the movie, and she's like, "Touch my leg again, and you're gonna lose it." Basically, you're gonna have a hook for a hand. Like Dino is that guy. I mean, that's a stretch, I know, but it's like there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. A 2-bit Bible salesman. I'm speaking to my butt. I don't know Dino De Laurentiis, like his history, if he has any scandals attached to him. I don't know if he's like Weinstein level.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I'm not implying that he actually did grope anybody. There's no, I don't think any evidence to support that. But like, I think like, yeah, those decisions, the costuming decisions, and maybe Stephen King also, it seems like kind of lead to the sort of just like lecherous tone of this movie, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's the name of this episode.
Lecherous. I like
it. Well, to add to the chaos, Hurricane Gloria grazed the state during production. They had to shut down while a hurricane tore through. And then, despite all this, King, I read, did try to keep a positive atmosphere on set. He had movie nights with the cast and crew. Good for you, King. But after reading through all that other stuff, I don't know if you get a pass on your behavior at this film.
Yeah, definitely not. If it results in somebody losing an eye, probably not. But your note here that some of the movie nights included Night of the Living Dead reminds me, have you heard about George Romero's role on this movie? He was rumored to like fill in as director for some scenes. Like maybe when, yeah, I read this online. I forget which article it was offhand, but like, yeah, rumor has it, like George Romero was there and he and Stephen King were very good friends at this time and he was on set for part of the shooting. And legend has it that for some scenes, maybe when King was not in a good state to shoot a scene, George Romero would fill in. And there are some people, some critics who are like, yeah, the visual style and some of the formal elements do resemble George Romero's filmmaking. So that's at least one theory out there.
I would believe that. Because I'll tell you, considering it's Stephen King's only directorial effort and he was under the influence, I wasn't not impressed by some of the stuff, like some of the shot compositions and but now if I'm thinking it was George Romero,
maybe makes a little more sense.
Maybe it does.
Right. Yeah. I and like, Creepshow, George Romero directed Creepshow in 1982. And is that all Stephen King stories or is it just one Stephen King story?
I believe it's all. He wrote the screenplay.
Okay. And he's an actor in one of the like stories too, right? Stephen King? I think he appears in the movie too.
I think so.
So, I mean, like they were working together and it seemed plausible to me that was the case. So yeah, I would buy that for sure.
In fact, I'm going to bet money on it.
Yeah. Same. The good parts of Maximum Overdrive are thanks to George Romero. I'm joking a little bit, but it might be partially true.
Hey, we got a Romero picture on the podcast, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right. The release and legacy of Maximum Overdrive. This was a critical and financial failure upon release in the summer of 1986. Today, it's considered a cult film. Some call it so bad it's good. So it has had a bit of a reappraisal. However, Stephen King hates it. He's called it a, quote, moron movie. Trucks, that story, would be adapted again as a TV movie for the USA Network in 1997. I did see that one late. It was on Tubi. I watched it at like 1 a.m. I slept on and off throughout the whole thing. And I thought, yeah, that was a good movie.
Huh, okay. I kind of want to check it out.
Yeah, but remember, I slept through most of it. But
fair warning, yeah.
Yeah, Did you know this? That during production, Stephen King and Dino De Laurentiis were having dinner one night when King convinced him to produce Evil Dead 2.
I did know that, and that's awesome. That's maybe the best thing to come out of this movie.
That almost makes up for the loss of Nanuzzi's eye.
Almost. I don't know if Nanuzzi would agree with that, but yeah.
No, he wouldn't. Almost. No, but King, he's a fan of horror and he's a fan of movies. And he was a fan of Evil Dead. And he championed the sequel. And then I think that's really good of him.
For sure, yeah. And despite, my, what's the word? Ambivalent, I guess, feelings about Stephen King, like, he's done so much for the horror genre. And like you said, he's a true fan. And you have to appreciate that about him.
Yeah. All right, well, this is a good time for our sponsor break. Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, a savvy investment property, or expert guidance in home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information. Matt, we've got a couple things here in Menia's mailbox.
Nice.
Don says, "That's awesome, guys. Really wish I could have been there." Don is speaking about our alligator screening. "No doubt it was much better on the big screen than my little one at my house. Since you mentioned Maximum Overdrive, if you remember back at the Christmas party, the Camp Kaiju Christmas party, when you mentioned that you were reviewing this one, I said that Stephen King had a brief but funny cameo. Assuming you've already watched it, King is the guy who goes to the ATM near the beginning of the movie, just after all the machines and stuff start going haywire. A very funny moment in my humble opinion. I also really enjoyed the soundtrack, great AC/DC classics and a couple of new tunes. The one time I saw them live was on the tour supporting this album. Amazing concert, very, very loud, but a lot of fun. I was a big fan of King's books when I was younger. If memory serves correct, I read everything he wrote up into and including Needful Things, October 1991. My favorite was Christine, and I love the John Carpenter movie too. Maybe someday you guys will review that one. Stay campy, Don." Thank you, Don. I will say, very cool you saw them AC/DC touring for the Who Made Who album. I saw them when they toured the Black Ice album in 2008. And Christine is such an easy double bill to pair with Maximum Overdrive. We'll talk about it one day.
Yeah, thank you, Don. I think I might actually watch Christine after we get off here later tonight. I've seen bits and pieces on TV. Like I kind of was saying to you earlier, Vincent, there are some things that give me pause, that make me question if I'll like it. And it's for some of the same reasons that I don't love Maximum Overdrive all that much. But, I haven't seen all of Christine, and I will not pass judgment until I do so.
I would be very interested to hear what you think. I think there are some thematic things to be mined out of that movie. I think there are some cool special effects.
Yeah, for sure. And I love John Carpenter.
Right.
Yeah. But thank you, Don. Thanks also to Jim Cheney for sending in his comment. Jim says, "Mr. Fancy Pants with new fancy equipment. A proper influencer now, LOL." Is he referring to your new microphone?
He is my setup with my lights and my microphone. So good for you, Jim. You got your jokes in. Good for you.
It is pretty impressive. You're my favorite influencer, Vincent. I'll just say that.
It's what I've always wanted to be.
Nice. Jim goes on to say, "War of the Worlds will always be on my playlist. I'm extremely excited for the Stephen King episodes coming up. I've been a huge fan for years. The Shining was the first movie that scared me, those little girls. Misery was the first book I read. I was hooked. His short stories are most of my favorite books. Trucks/Maximum Overdrive is such a fun watch, especially with friends. Highly recommend. I saw Children of the Corn when it first came out. My friend lived on a farm with a cornfield, LOL. Yeah, we stayed out of it for a little bit. Another good movie to watch with friends. Can't wait to hear what Yins have to say." Thank you, Jim. That reminds me, when I was young, when I was a teenager growing up in West Bend, Wisconsin, which is suburban Wisconsin, basically, we were always very bored, so we would run around in people's cornfields late at night, hoping that the farmer wouldn't come out and catch us. That's what we did to amuse ourselves. Wow. And I feel like that's part of the reason I wanted to bring Children of the Corn to the podcast.
That is so Midwest.
Yeah, I know. Yep. Formative experience for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. I was going to say, I thought The Shining was a typo, but then I remembered there's a Simpsons spoof of The Shining called The Shining.
Yeah.
Maybe that's intentional, Jim.
I assume so. That's a great reference. Well, yeah. We're going to say it's intentional, so thank you for that, Jim.
We've got 2 Simpson references on this episode already.
Yeah, it's, I think there's also an episode of The Simpsons called Maximum Homer Drive. That's like an homage kind of to this movie. Similar storyline. I love it. That makes me like the opening even more.
You're entering another dimension. A dimension of sight, a dimension of sound, a dimension where nobody answers their telephone. Case in point, you think you're calling a friend. What you've actually done is bought a one-way ticket to the answering machine zone. After the beep, leave your name, number, and a brief message.
Honey, come over here, sugar buns. This machine just called me an asshole. Best ovens ever. Kicking with the AC/DC. Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun.
When I saw that transcription, and I looked at my phone earlier, it kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I was like, who's calling me what now? Oh, he's quoting the movie. Okay. All right. Well, who can forget Peter Lorre? Sorry, bud. There's so much else going on, but we will not forget you. And Peter Lorre is talking about a 1946 movie called Spookbusters, not Ghostbusters. Spookbusters is shudterific. And it's about those Bowery boys, Slip, Satch, Bobby, Whitey, and Chuck, who start their own exterminating service and get a job which takes them to a spooky old abandoned mansion in the middle of the night. Meeting up with pal Gabe and his new French bride, the boys are tormented by mad scientists who try to convince him the place is haunted and then kidnap Satch in order to place his brain inside a gorilla.
Wow.
I just lived a lifetime. So many things happened in that sentence, in that synopsis. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, shudterific indeed. Good luck, Peter. I hope it goes well. It's weird how many movies from around this time have like the gorilla/man hybrid thing, you know? We've talked about that before.
Yeah, putting brains in gorillas.
Yeah.
A lost genre.
Yeah, maybe for the best.
But Spookbusters, I know, does it bear any resemblance to Ghostbusters? We'll see.
Yeah, I doubt it, but maybe. Yeah. Have you or has Peter ever seen any of the Bowery Boys movies before?
Oh yeah. They went by so many names depending on the studio they worked at. At MGM, they were the East End Kids, or at Warner Brothers, they were the Dead End Kids, or here they were the Bowery Boys. Don't quote me on those studios, but you get my drift. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, they were, and they also interchanged their performers a lot of times. There's one or two staples, main actors who stuck with the troupe, but they were in like 8 movies with Bela Lugosi, Poverty Row movies. You know, real certain sense of humor there. Very, very yuck type of stuff, which if it's not your cup of tea, they're really not funny. But if it is, then you can get a chuckle out of them.
Okay. I'm guessing they are not my sense of humor, but I've never seen any of them, and I would be intrigued to check it out just to see what they're all about.
Well, I will give you some recommendations. They're films with Bela Lugosi. There's some diamonds in the rough there. But honestly, Matt, check out the James Cagney movie, Angels with Dirty Faces.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen that. That's a gangster movie, right?
Yep. And the East End Kids at the time, I think they're the Dead End Kids. But they are a huge part of that movie. But that's an A picture. And that would give you maybe the best example of their vibe without the dumb humor.
Okay. In an actual good movie.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's a big blind spot for me. I love gangster movies of the 30s, but I've never seen that one.
I think it's one of the best. It's one of my favorites.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Welcome to the Poverty Row Studios on the other side of Hollywood. Yes, where the stars were dimmer and the red carpets dripped with blood. Together we will watch the best of the worst. Movies known for their limited budgets, outlandish concepts, and questionable performances. But with enough haunted houses, zombies, ape men, and devilbats to keep you up at night, this is the Poverty Row Picture Show, and I dare you to sleep through these nightmares. Listeners, I bid you welcome, but please be quiet. Be still. Shut your traps. I apologize for my unfortunate outburst, but you hear that sound? Yes, that little funny squeaking noise coming through the cosmic messaging. It has gone away now. Perhaps it will come back. Oh, me? Am I doing all right? Well, yes, listener, you do not worry about old Peter Lorre. I am just making my final preparations for this trip I am taking to the stars, where I believe this message is originating from. And there, only there, in that astral plane of mystery, I will discover the cure for Lenore's condition. And yes, for those of you just now joining us, my beautiful wife has been turned into a bird. Yes, a black raven, in fact. She sleeps in a tree in the park. I feed her morning, noon, and night, and communicate with her through our own language. Caw! 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 No, my darling. I was only demonstrating to our friends what life is like for us these days. No, you go back to the park and I'll be there as soon as I am finished. Yes, with the fish heads. Yes, I will heat them up this time. Now, listeners, clearly you understand that I must find her a cure at all costs. Now, to fulfill my unholy duties for Camp Kaiju, this week's Poverty Row film is called Spookbusters, starring those lovable bums from Brooklyn, the Bowery Boys, otherwise known as the East End Kids. Unfortunately, no, there is no Bela Lugosi in this outing, nor is there the amusing antics of Sunshine Sammy Morris. So despite the higher production budget, the film cannot charm its way out of cliché and tedium. Perhaps the best legacy of this movie is the premise itself. A gang of exterminators head to a haunted house to bust some ghosts. Sounds familiar, yes? Yes, perhaps it is not a mere coincidence. Oh, shh, be quiet, listeners. Do you hear that squeaking has returned? By Great Zuko's beard, I believe I recognize that squeaking. Yes, I would recognize that little mouse squeak anywhere. Hello, Pierre. So we meet again, you dirty, rotten son of a...
Hey, I found a shortcut through your hedge maze.
Go away, you little... No, go easy on the wee one. His father's gonna go crazy and chop them all into haggis.
What's haggis?
Boy, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinning.
You mean shining.
Shh, you wanna get sued? Now look, boy, if your dad goes gaga, you just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Let's talk about the themes of Maximum Overdrive.
Well, I think it might help to explain the plot a little bit more. Like, the Earth is caught in the tail of a comet, and the comet is controlled by, maybe, or at least affiliated with an alien race that wants to exterminate some of the humans off of Earth. Apparently, like, the bad people, it seems. Like, the aliens seem to have, seems to want to eliminate the bad people. Like, as you were mentioning before, it gets rid of, like, the fake religious guy, the Bible thumper. It gets rid of Bubba eventually, the kind of like shady capitalist truck stop owner. But really, it wants to take over the planet, and it uses mechanical devices to do so. So, there are a couple of themes in there. I think, like, I don't want to take all the themes. I guess I'll just say, like, you were mentioning before, a remake of this movie, which could be really interesting today, because, like, what if artificial intelligence and all the technology around us, like, rose up and like started murdering humans? That's a compelling concept. I don't know if this movie really makes the most of it, but that idea is there.
Absolutely. I think it's such a good theme. Our humanity's relationship with machinery and these things that we created. And there's that one, the waitress character. She goes screaming at the trucks, saying, "We made you. We made you. Why are you? You can't kill us." Which then leads me to think about themes of subservience and yeah, if you created something, does that mean you own it?
Hmm.
You know, think about, well, there's a religious parallel there with the creator figure, but also you could think about slavery if you wanted to get into that aspect of it. But yeah, ultimately, if and when something rebels against its overlords, is that okay? Is that justified? Are the machines, I know they're controlled by aliens, but what's the machine's sense of liberation?
Yeah.
Is it a new world order?
Right. Does it want to kill literally everybody, or is it just like the bad people, supposedly? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, with artificial intelligence, especially, like, this is such a timely thing right now. Like, are creating artificial intelligence. If and when it rises up or becomes more powerful than us, who is to blame? Like, probably us, humanity.
Yeah. And we'll be screaming, "We made you."
Yeah. Or, as AC/DC would say, who made who? Right?
Yeah. Or would it be who made whom?
Yeah, that would be grammatically correct. Yeah.
And I've always thought that.
I thought that, of course. I mean, like, I thought that during the movie, and I was like, whatever. I'm not surprised.
Like I said, it's a little campy, their musical stylings.
Yeah. This might be kind of a stretch, but like, I wonder if, like, the idea of like making something and then having it go out of control to the extent that you can't even, like, it's not yours anymore. Could that apply to making a movie too? Like, if Stephen King, I mean, it's not just one person. Like, obviously there's a huge cast and crew on this movie, but like, can you make something and then it just kind of like takes on a life of its own? Like, I feel like that kind of happened with this movie.
Got away from him a little bit.
Yeah.
I am thinking about the short story, and this is where I'll compare and contrast. In the story, the ending is very different. Whereas in the movie, it's very hopeful. We know the comet has passed out of Earth's orbit. Things are back to normal. We're good. But it's not so in the story. In the story, there is no ending, quote unquote. It's very existential. It's left very open-ended if this will ever get better, or if in fact the machines are here to dominate.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of The Birds a little bit, at least the movie, if
Yeah.
not the story, because like,
Yep.
for the moment, they drive into the distance and everything seems okay, but there are just like birds everywhere you can see, and like, things are not going to be okay.
Yo, that's so good, because at the end of, I think the last image of the story is one of the characters looks up in the sky and sees a plane flying by, and
Yeah.
and it's such a great bit of writing, because you as the reader are just left with, oh my God, I don't know if that plane is sentient or not. That's horror, right? You're just left dwelling on that.
Yeah, when like everything around you almost could be a source of danger, Like, that's a really strong concept.
Yeah. Also, difference in the book. I don't believe I think in the book, the machines are limited to trucks and vehicles. I think it's the movie that takes it into machinery at large.
Yeah, yeah. Which I like, like, some of that is kind of fun. Like, of course, like the soda machine, like spitting out soda cans and like killing little league players with that is like just insane in the movie. So I'm kind of happy they made that change, but it just makes no sense. Like, are there any rules to the power that the aliens have? And I know you shouldn't look for plot logic in a movie like this, but there should be some internal rules, I think, you know?
There should be, and I thought the same thing. Like I love expanding the threat to all of machinery, but be consistent with it. Sometimes the machines were fine and they just acted normally.
Yep.
And it was just whatever was convenient to get the story across. So I was like, I'm not buying it. Maybe it would be a tighter story if we just stuck with the trucks.
Right.
Or made some sort of strong choice either way.
I felt the same way. Yeah. Like, again, there should be some kind of internal rules because, like, otherwise you just don't buy the concept. That was a big hindrance for me. And, like, not that it ever would be realistic, but at least there would be, like, some internal logic to it, you know?
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our breakdowns, the good, the bad, and the campy with Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, so this movie looks really good. I know we already talked about Armando Nanuzzi and his very careful work here. It's almost like you just want to turn to Armando and be like, you know, this movie's so stupid, right? It doesn't have to be this beautiful, but it is. Especially like the effects with like the comet and its like green tail. All that looks pretty good. The lighting in some of the night scenes is just like incredibly precise and careful, well composed. There's some really great like crane shots and tracking shots that sort of like slowly move into the action. That's almost definitely like a decision that Nanuzzi made, and Stephen King was just like, yeah, you do you. Like I assume he didn't have a lot of creative control there, you know? And yeah, like sometimes despite the insanity of the movie as a whole, there's kind of like an almost subtle visual style, which I know sounds crazy, but just like the decisions are very, yeah, again, just like very focused on like the best way to like present the action and the suspense and the horror and the gore as effectively as possible.
I'm thinking about those crane shots. I totally noticed those too. There's a great great wide shot of the trucks circling the truck stop. And it's just so visually cool to look at. And the opening of the film with the bridge, and you get there are so many parts of that opening that are so bombastically awesome.
Yeah.
But just about the cinematography, it's just shot really well to emphasize carnage, and it's edited well to emphasize it all too. But then you talk about the stunts itself. You have all these cars being mashed together, banged up, falling. The stunt actors are going through windows.
Yeah.
They drop a truck off of the bridge into the water. Like, you just don't see that kind of filmmaking anymore. I love that opening.
Same. It's a great opening scene, and there's a little bit of humor. There's a lot of humor actually, but like I loved the joke where they're like watermelon splattering, and you're not totally sure if it's like human guts or watermelons. That was a funny joke. I mean, like some of the use of slow motion is really effective in that opening shot too, or the opening scene, I should say. Where, you know, like a stuntman might like fly through a windshield and it's just like barely in slow motion. It's not extremely slowed down. But I love that. And, you know, again, George Romero does that sometimes too. So who knows whose decision that was.
Who knows? I also love this film is set in North Carolina. It's the South, man. And this is closer to where I was born and raised in Florida. But I-95 goes up and down the East Coast there. And on road trips, I drove through the Carolinas many times. And in summer, and I could just feel the heat and the desolation of that location. And I don't know how much of it is just me projecting, or like, how did you feel like that kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Especially in that scene where like countless semi trucks are coming into the truck stop to get filled up on gasoline, and the humans are out there like all day just like laboring in the heat, and they're like sweating up a storm and everything. You can really feel it in that scene.
Yeah. And is that cinematography that brings that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the cinematography definitely plays a role. I think like just costuming makes an impact there, like the performances themselves. Yeah, but the cinematography is really like, I feel like the movie has a good like washed out look where everything looks really like muggy all the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that the trucks seem to have a personality. And that's important when you're dealing with inanimate objects coming to life. The biggest example is our quote unquote leader of the trucks is this Green Goblin. And this truck is literally given a face. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever that this truck driver was like, oh, we're going to put this on my rig. But for the movie, it's so dumb, but it works in personifying the truck. And it's the Green Goblin, which is Spider-Man's arch nemesis. So it just adds to the camp, but also grounds it again in a personality.
Of course, you know, like again, I don't want to be a stickler for logic, but it's like, why don't the trucks just like plow into the truck stop, and like why do they behave differently? You know,
I have an answer.
Okay,
because in the movie they have a line that says the trucks aren't coming in because they'll fall through the floor because the truck stop has the basement.
I do remember that. I guess I just didn't buy it, but fair enough. Yeah.
No, dude, you're 100% right. And then even at the end, what do the trucks do? They barge through the place. So I know it's so honestly, my first draft keeps coming to my mind with this screenplay. Like it's so there, and yet it's not tight enough at all because nobody went through it and said, we just need a little explanation to tighten that script element. We just need a little bit here to tighten that motivation. It doesn't take much to make this like a really good screenplay. But as it stands, there's a lot of leaps in logic. There's a lot of inconsistency. There's no real rules, like you said, tying it all together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I know according to some people, that's the charm of the movie, that it's just so over the top and so crazy and makes no sense and all that. I do understand that. But like, you know, we haven't really talked about Duel yet. I would take Duel, which is like so tightly made and just like a man against a truck and is so like elemental and like, I love that. And like, it's subjective, but I'll take that over Maximum Overdrive, you know?
I think yes. And I think they're two different types of movies too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But ideally, I don't think King or De Laurentiis wanted to make a bad movie. I think they wanted to make a Duel, but they just failed because of so many reasons we've already talked about.
Yeah, for sure.
We can keep going with good stuff, but we can talk about bad stuff because I think a lot of good is also like fun things that I can also talk about that made me laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Yeah. Might be in the campy category for some of that stuff.
Oh, the humor in this movie, it's so interesting because I think this movie is really funny when it doesn't try to be. But when it does try to be funny, I don't find it funny. I find it very off key.
Yeah.
Two examples come to mind. There's a scene where a worker is farting in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just totally rolled my eyes at. Like it's not funny. You're trying too hard. And then the other time is the kid sees the plane coming in and we get that music. Bump, 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 bump. And I went, what is this choice? This is a drug choice. You're trying to be funny or clever. I'm just rolling my eyes at this moment.
Yeah, because nothing happens with that plane. Like it's leading to some kind of encounter, and then the plane just flies away, right? Like I think we see the plane like later on we see evidence of a crash, but like that scene leads to nothing at all.
Yeah, and just adding that bombastic classical music, totally off key, like disharmonious with the rest of the choices.
Right, exactly. I agree with you that the movie is funny when it's not trying to be and not funny when it is trying to be. I think, this goes back to like tightening it up a little bit, but like so many, like the movie does drag in certain spots. And I think the reason is because there are some scenes that just lead to nothing at all. The plane scene is an example, but I think another example is when all of the trucks are coming into the truck stop and they're filling them up with gasoline. I know alluded to that scene, but like that does not have to be in the movie. Nothing happens from that. Nothing happens with those additional trucks that come in. They just leave apparently, and then it goes back to the action at hand. It's like this. There is literally zero reason for this scene to be in the movie. And like it's reasons like that where it kind of drags and gets a little bit boring every once in a while, you know?
That is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of our episode, where I think it's Hell's Bells is playing. One of the greatest songs ever. No argument, because AC/DC is the best band ever. No argument. But this is where the movie fooled me into thinking something was happening. When I went, nothing's happening. They're just filling gas. And it's like I'm just watching a glorified music video. If that's what it is, cool. But as a movie, it's not driving any narrative. And you're just left wondering, where's the payoff? There's no payoff to that.
Right. And that goes back to the first draft of the screenplay thing that you were talking about, you know? And maybe the coked out production circumstances as well. I think probably the number one issue I have with this movie is again just like the immature broishness of it all. Like, again, it seems like the kind of movie that like a 13-year-old boy going through puberty would make. And like even though Brett, the love interest of Bill, the movie I think thinks that she has, you know, she's like a strong woman. She has signs of agency or whatever. But really I think it's a fantasy of like a beautiful woman who again is like, you know, shows a lot of skin like Dino De Laurentiis wanted her to, who's just like, hey, you're cute. Do you want to have sex? Even though like all this insanity is going on. And that's exactly what happens. Like she and Emilio are, you know, like having sex in a back room when all this is going on. Like all of it is just like, yeah, I feel like an immature boy made this movie. And, you know, some of the characters who are overtly sleazy and terrible do get their comeuppance. But I feel like the movie as a whole is still like, just has a tone that it's hard to get on board with. And I know you could just say it's like stupid and over the top and all that. But, you know, I want a little more sensitivity to the characters. I want a little more like considering people as human beings and not just like meat for like trucks to drive over, basically, you know?
Or steamroll over.
Yeah.
I agree. That makes me think like this is such a large ensemble film, and yet you have zero sense of the ensemble.
Mm.
You could see a stronger version of this movie where each character is memorable in their own way. They have a distinct trait or personality, but no, everyone just kind of bleeds into each other. There's a romantic scene between Bill and Brett where I believe King directed because it's not directed well.
Mm.
It was like the camera, like the framing was off and the actors weren't blocked. You could tell they were uncomfortable standing around each other and it looked like it hadn't been rehearsed. And it's not often I can tell when actors are not directed well, but I was like, oh, that's a poorly directed scene right there.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think I know exactly what scene you're talking about. And like, you know, it's other things too, like just the obsession with like grenades and rocket launchers and like machine guns and like the, you know, toilet scene that you were talking about before. Like all those things are just like, man, I do not like the tone of this movie.
Sure. Yeah. I love AC/DC, but the choice to score this movie with their hits doesn't add any kind of real suspense or tension to scenes that should be suspenseful and tension filled. It's like a 13-year-old boy. It's just heavy rock, which is cool. Like I said, but it doesn't again really do anything to heighten the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, campy things. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is that baseball scene. That scene goes from 0 to 60 real quick. Like the coach, right, is killed by the soda cans. Brutal. A kid on his bicycle is like, I'm getting out of here. He flips over on his bike, but then a steamroller comes in through the outfield and just flattens the poor kid.
Shocking. Yeah. Shuderific, even. I read that effect, they had like exploding blood in that shot originally, and like Stephen King loved the effect. Like it looked like the steamroller ran over the kid's head and it just exploded with blood everywhere. And the MPAA was like, "You need to cut this out of the movie. Like we cannot release it." Which I mean is fair, but I'm kind of morbidly curious about what that looked like.
I think that's one of the best scenes. It's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, another criticism. I know we're having fun here, but I didn't realize that kid was the son of that one character at the truck stop until way too late in the movie. I did not. It was not. Those dots were not connected, and it made for I thought I was watching two different movies as opposed to one connected film. Again, it's a first draft. Clearly, a first draft.
Yeah. Right. Like a better screenplay or director would like provide more exposition, more foreshadowing to connect those dots, and there's just none of that here.
Yeah. One more bad thing. Sorry. I hate the concept in this movie that's not in the book that this is all to do with the aliens or some meteor, and that the threat will pass in 6 days or whatever. I think that takes away the existential mystery of it all, and it gives us an okay. It says, audience, the world will be okay at this time. So whatever happens in this movie, you're gonna know it's gonna be okay. I don't want to know it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because like again, it doesn't make any sense with the story if these aliens are trying to like rid Earth of humanity so they can apparently take it over at some point, but then the comet just passes by. Well, how does that make any sense at all?
Yeah. Arguably it's campy too.
Yeah.
But hit me with what you found funny.
AC/DC. You referred to them as campy before, and that is true. I mean, it's not effective to heighten suspense, like you said, but like every time one of their songs came on, I was just like, yeah, this is stupid, but I'll go along with it. All right, it's fine. And I liked the moment at the end, and this actually did seem like intentional humor, where they're about to like get on the boat to go to the island where there are no other vehicles, and then the ice cream truck comes up, and you think it's going to be like one more standoff, but then they just shoot it with a rocket launcher, and they all cheer. That was kind of funny. I like that. And the last campy moment that I'll mention, which again I think was intentional humor, is when the kid is riding his bike and he sees like all of these dead bodies who apparently were killed by various machines, like a hairdryer and like the lawnmower, for example. That's the lawnmower scene. Like it's just preposterous. But you can tell that they had fun being like, all right, if a kid was biking down a street, what kind of corpses would he see just like strewn about everywhere, Yeah. So that was kind of amusing.
I do find a sense of fun in that 100%. The imagery is so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could tell they were having fun setting it all up and everything. There by the end of the movie, and I will say the ice cream truck is very funny. I wanted more ice cream truck. It's showing up randomly at the end made me laugh because it was so delightfully stupid. Which I love is a phrase I think you coined on this show. And it was just great.
Yeah.
Quibbles aside, I was like, okay, at this point, why the hell not? Let's get the ice cream truck back in.
Right. Yeah, it's the kind of delightfully stupid that I wish this movie had more of, but a lot of it is kind of just like irritatingly stupid, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it, maybe not a lot of it. The ratio is not where I want it to be.
That's it, man. It's there's not a clear voice. There's not a clear direction or tone throughout this movie, which makes it a bizarre watch, which makes it almost a fever dream of what is happening. It's why we love it, but doesn't make a good movie.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the aliens or the comet passes over Earth on June 19th.
That's coming up. Everybody beware.
We could be in it.
Yeah. This is why there needs to be a remake, Because like again, you could do a lot. In an age of artificial intelligence, you could do a lot with this idea.
But make it practical, please.
Yeah.
I need to see real cars exploding.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They don't make them that way anymore.
I know. And as like with all the negative things I'll say about this movie, they don't make them like this anymore. And it is like a particular kind of bad or just like ridiculous or stupid or whatever you want to call it that like I don't think this movie could ever be made again. And there is some value in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as always on Camp Kaiju, we have 4 different ratings on our show. Our highest rating, it's a timeless classic. It definitely stands the test of time. Our second rating, there may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great. It stands the test of time. Number 3, it may be historically significant or just fun, but it does not stand the test of time. And our lowest rating, it is not worth revisiting. It definitely does not stand the test of time.
Okay. You can go for it if you wish.
Okay. This movie is fun at times. I'm glad I watched it. And maybe years in the future, while having a couple beers possibly, I might watch it again. I could see that happening. But it does not stand the test of time, in my opinion. There are too many things that I don't like about it. My biggest issue with Stephen King, again, is kind of like the almost sleazy Boy Scout attitude or tone that he brings to some of his writing. I could bring examples, but I'm not going to do that right now. That is true of this movie. I like some trash, and this is like pretty beautiful, well-made trash, and I like that sort of thing pretty often. But here I do think it's just a little bit too stupid, a little too draggy at times, and I'm not fully on board with the critical reappraisal that says it's like so crazy, it's like actually a masterpiece. Like, no, it's a bad movie, but it is worth watching. So yeah, a lot of contradictions there. It doesn't stand the test of time for me, but it is fun, and you should watch it.
I think contradiction is also the name of this episode. I think I'm going to be on the, as so often with us recently, I'm going to be on the flip side of that, where I think there are some antiquated moments. However, I think there are a lot of antiquated moments. But ultimately, I do think it's great and does stand the test of time because of its largely, I think, the sense of fun and bizarre movie making, even done well with Nanuzzi's work and George Romero's work, does shine through enough to shine that crap. And I know it's still crap, but it looks good and it's fun. By the end of this movie, I'm just thinking, nothing makes sense anymore. But how do I feel? I feel like I want to get in a car and blast AC/DC. So that's a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm on board for that review. I like that.
Yeah, so that's where I'll leave it. I for what it's worth, I do think it stands the test of time.
Cool. I'm glad that we have, I'm glad that one of us liked it because, you should watch it. It's a ridiculous movie and it's one of a kind.
Oh my gosh! Glad we finally talked about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for a great conversation, as always.
Likewise.
Can't wait to talk about Children of the Corn. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yes, I love this June Stephen King theme. It's a lot of fun. It seems suited for summer.
Definitely. And lots of good things coming up. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, listeners, for hanging out with us. If you liked what you heard, please give us a rating and a review. Follow us on patreon.com/campkaiju. Email us, Instagram, you know where to go. Let us know what you think about Maximum Overdrive, about Stephen King. And know that you can drop us a voicemail at the answering machine zone, 612-470-2612. Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with Media's Mailbox by Ben Cook Feltz. Thank you, friends, and until next time, stay campy. Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, a savvy investment property, or expert guidance in home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information.
Honey, come on over here, sugar buns. This machine just called me an asshole.